Okay, we actually have some news fresh from the presses as of a few minutes ago coming out about Naughty Dog. Real quick, you might notice that we don't have chat on screen, and that's because my internet service provider is doing something, and so I don't have reliable internet service right now, so I can't stream, but I still have a lot of stuff I want to talk about. So I'm just going to film this like we're streaming and pretend that I have people watching. And hopefully it still works in terms of format and it's not just really, really sad, which this might end up feeling like, but we'll try nonetheless. So basically this report just dropped through VGC. As you can see, according to MinMax founder Ben Hansen, who said that he'd received some information about the secretive project from somebody very in the know who's worked on the game. If we go to that link, we'll just let him describe it, okay? This is him talking about it. Let's just hear what he has to say.
To compare it to, because I don't want people to be like, MinMax said it was going to be exactly like this. But they compared it to a game with a lot...
They're in the CMS already, Ben. It's too late.
Right. But they compared it to a game with a lot of player freedom. Of like, did you like that game? And I said, yes. And they said, well, there you go. It's going to be good.
I thought the direction you were going when he said Jesus Christ was like, oh, something rotten season 5. You know, Jesus Christ. You'll never see heads explode like this in a video game.
No, I don't know. I'm super curious. Obviously, I was curious before, but after hearing this developer be like,
was it Hitman?
It's not Hitman. Sorry, it's not Hitman 4 that they're making. I apologize, Leo.
This alluding to the next project from Naughty Dog. Now, we don't know much about it. We do know from the Grounded 2 documentary that they've pretty much completely eliminated crunch from their studio. It was one of the big projects after COVID. Was not like working on the next big game, but actually removing crunch from their dev process, which props to them. I mean, people may not recall if you've not kept up with Naughty Dog, but like seriously, they used to be the studio of crunch. That's what they were known for. It was like, if you want to work at Naughty Dog, cool. Just be prepared to not see your family for like a year and a half straight as you're crunching to get the game out. But they've completely removed that. This is a little segment from the Grounded 2 Making of The Last of Us Part 2 documentary where they talk about it. At the very end of the documentary, how they've worked really hard. You'll hear them describe these things they call like crunch dinners or studio dinners, because they used to serve breakfast and dinner and they'd bring in catering and stuff all the time for the developers. And they did that because they're like, hey, if you're working late at the studio, here's a little something, our gift to you, kind of like your boss giving you a pizza dinner. And they thought, you know, this is just a really nice thing to do. But then they realized later, oh, that just kind of reaffirms and reinforces the messaging that you are expected to stay past dinner. You're expected to take your food back to your desk and keep working. And so they've removed all of that. And here's them talking about it briefly.
We used to, as a studio, when we were getting close to shipping a game, bring in dinners for the whole studio. We don't do crunch dinners anymore.
Being able to work from home is hugely helpful for me, for my mental health. Of like, you know, my daughter's there, my wife is there.
Hybrid is really the sweet spot because I think the benefits have just been enormous.
In the past, our leads, our managers, were the people that were best at their craft, but not necessarily the best managers.
So we created the role of principal.
We really gave people the choice, like, do you want to make stuff or do you want to lead and manage?
And this is reflected through like their whole development process. Everything they've done in the last, like pretty much post The Last of Us Part 2 has been about reforming the studio, restructuring it, and trying to make them work more efficiently and in a way that protects the interests of the developers and isn't super toxic, blah, 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 which is all great. And then you stack onto this that they spent years working on their multiplayer game that was canned and never saw the light of day, which still to this day is just unbelievable. I mean, all we really ever got were some pictures. Like we got this picture which went around a ton. Oh, who's that? Some weirdo. Oh, these are my old glasses. I used to have these glasses from Moscot. I remember after the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial, I saw him wearing these glasses. Those are just good looking glasses. So I ordered a pair from that shop in New York City. And they're very, very nice glasses, but I have what's known in the medical field as a a fat soccer ball shaped head, and so they don't sit super comfortably. They squeeze my brain. So I don't really wear those anymore. Plus they're my old prescription, but that's more information you don't need. Anyway, they shared this picture, and there were rumors what this was going to be. There were rumors it was going to be like an extraction based shooter where you're fighting infected. So there's like PvPvE going on. And, they showed some other concepts of like the cruise ship. Do they have that? Yeah, right here. So they've got like this concept as well. This might be in engine, but I think it's just concept art, where presumably like one of the areas you can go to is a big cruise ship that you can go explore. And all of that just gone, canned, out the window. And they announced it as part of this update they posted December 14th of last year, an update on The Last of Us Online. This was crazy. We realize many of you have been anticipating news around the project we've been calling The Last of Us Online. There's no easy way to say this. We made the incredibly difficult decision to stop development on that game. Multiplayer team has been in pre-production with this game since we were working on The Last of Us Part 2, crafting an experience that felt unique and had tremendous potential. As the multiplayer team iterated on the concept of the game, during this time, their vision crystallized, the gameplay got more refined and satisfying, and we were enthusiastic about the direction in which we were headed. In ramping up to full production, the massive scope of our ambition became clear. To release and support The Last of Us Online, we'd have to put all of our studio resources behind supporting post-launch content for years to come, severely impacting development on future single-player games. So we had two paths in front of us: become a solely live service game studio or continue focus on single-player narrative games that have defined Naughty Dog's heritage. And they decided to do the latter, which I'm very glad about. I'm sure The Last of Us Online would have been cool, but the fact that they decided to basically choose, we pursue this and become a live service studio and abandon the single player stuff we're known for, or we keep doing what we're really good at. And I think that this was part of the broader context and discussion around Sony's problems with delivering live service games that were high quality, forcing studios that were not live service studios to make live service games, and then seeing other things in the industry like the launch of Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which would of course come out just a few months later after they walked away from this. But that was like the quintessential example of a live service game made by a single player studio, and just the wasted talent that game was kind of built around. But that's all we've really known them to be working on for the last 4 years, is that they were working on a live service game that got canned, and they were working to redo their crunch culture and their studio infrastructure and all of that to encourage work remote, remove crunch, and all of that kind of builds up into this amalgamation of factors, which basically just means that the studio will take a lot longer to produce stuff now. Working remote, working from home is awesome, but there's conflicting reporting on whether it actually even meets the same level of productivity and efficiency as working in the studio more traditionally. A lot of the reporting, there's been some studies that have been done that suggest it's just as productive working from home versus going to the studio or office. Other, research has suggested that it's significantly less efficient than just working in the office. But there's a lot of like little nitty gritty details you have to look at, because some of those studies will include like travel time to the office. And they're like, see, so if you count the 2 hours they're driving to the office, then they aren't doing work during that time. So technically they're less efficient. When what I think the executives are really interested in is just when you're sitting at your desk doing work, when are you more efficient? So of course, if you factor in travel time, you'd be less efficient than working from home when you don't have to do that. But, all of that's kind of beside the point. The point is just to say that Naughty Dog is working on something, and it seems that they are looking to kind of start a new chapter, not just with the studio culture, but also with their design philosophy. As you can see, they say the tone was like, this is that individual talking about this, and Hansen describing what this contact told him. The tone was like, you are all not ready for how amazing this thing is going to be. And the tone was, I'm not going to say the game that will be referenced to compare it to, because I don't want people to be like Min-Max said it was going to be exactly like this, but they compared it to a game with a lot of player freedom. Hansen added that the game Naughty Dog's upcoming title was compared to wasn't Hitman. There's a lot of games with player freedom besides Hitman, but that's That's interesting. Okay. Naughty Dog head Neil Druckmann said last year he'd like the studio to focus less on traditional narrative in future projects. Quote, I'm more recently intrigued by stuff like Elden Ring and Inside that don't rely as much on traditional narrative to tell a story. I think some of the best storytelling in The Last of Us, yes, a lot of it is in the cinematics, but a lot of it is in the gameplay, moving around a space and understanding a history of a space just by looking at it and examining it. To me, that right now is some of the best joy I get out of games. Those that trust their audience to figure things out, that don't hold their hand. That's the stuff I'm really intrigued by going forward. And I love this. So much of the games industry right now seems plagued by the urge to hold players' hands and to over-explain things. And then also, it's sort of a lack of trust in the player where they just assume that everybody is just kind of maybe simple-minded is the term. There's a famous video. I don't know about famous, but there's a video. Let me see if I can find it real quick. There's a video that went around discussing the level design. Yeah, here it is. The level design in God of War 2018. And it's really interesting. You can see like it's 2019 GDC level design workshop. Sony Santa Monica's Rob Davis talks through the process of creating 6 new level design rules for God of War and discussing best practices for taking levels from concept to completion. Sounds like a cool talk, but one of the common frustrations in AAA games is that they are dumbed down, right? They're made to be too approachable, I guess. And so like God of War Ragnarok, for example, had an issue where you walk up to a puzzle and within 30 seconds, like your companion, Atreus or whoever, will start chiming up with, oh, do you think we should hit that bottle up there? Oh, do you think we should break that wall right there? And they spoil the puzzle, ruining it because they didn't trust that the player would be smart enough to figure it out. And in this little talk, funnily enough, there's actually a moment where they show some gameplay and they want to discuss training players to behave in certain ways. So they show, items, boss, exploration, boss, and kind of like how you design the levels to flow in a certain way. Okay, interesting. But then they show somebody on screen.
Exploration.
And this is amazing.
Quick example. I want you to watch what the player does here as he boats around.
The taste of Vanilla magic led him to new forms of experimentation.
We're back.
New levels of depravity.
Look where we are, we're back.
Okay, so in this example, the player is exploring the hub. They've been correctly taught the shock arrow mechanic. And thanks to the design work done by Kai Zheng, they've also been told that shock arrows mean interesting themes and that there's a lot of different variety and a lot of different gameplay, right? So we've made a convincing promise to the player. So watch it one more time, and I want you to watch just what the camera behavior does.
The taste of Vanilla magic led him to new forms.
I just love that it's like they have these clips and it's almost like they're watching how a monkey behaves in captivity. Like, see how he goes for the banana. And now we can see, because he's been trained, that he gets a piece of banana every time he performs this action. He does it on command. It's basically what they're doing here. But the reason I point this out is because this is a guy by the name of DSP, or Darkside Phil. You might have seen the Frederick Knudsen video. Of course, they have his face blurred out here. But it's DSP. I mean, everybody knows it is. Even in the comment section, you can see everybody to show how idiot-proof the game is. You live in the same timeline where DSP has game companies making games to cater to him. What a horrible time to live in, where DSP is a standard audience's games are aimed at. And if you don't know who DSP is, basically, he's just a guy that's well known for being really bad at games. There's the old example of DSP with the lightning. Let me see if I can find it. Lightning in like Breath of the Wild, where he doesn't understand that you can't outrun lightning. You can't make this up.
You're kidding me! Riding full speed, the lightning hones in on you and it hits you?
What is this? Lightning follows you as you're riding on a horse? What is happening?
This isn't fun. I'm sorry. Randomly, a glue monster appears, takes all of your health. Oh, you don't have enough stamina to climb something standard at the beginning of the game. Oh, lightning just hones in on you and kills you. How is this a fun? It's bullshit.
Bruh, just...
Like, literally doesn't understand how lightning works. And he's like a 40-year-old man. It's amazing. But the reason people are frustrated by this is because people like him, I think, are the exception to the rule. Part of the reason that these clips go viral on Twitter and TikTok and everywhere of him playing this stuff is because it is so hilarious how bad he is, because most people are able to go in there and they understand, I have a metal sword on my back, I have a metal shield on my back. That's what's attracting the lightning. That's why they have the little sparks fly before the lightning strikes, to signal to the player and teach them that. When game developers like overly cater to you and over explain things to you, it doesn't actually help anything. It just dumbs down the overall experience to make it foolproof against people who are really, really bad at games, sure, but it makes the experience overall worse for people that want a little bit more complexity and challenge. And it also follows through narratively, where you get games that over explain the story, or will have dialogue that just repeats itself to try and hammer home some concept or some feeling or something. Think of like Forspoken's dialogue, where you have a character that's like, I feel so angry right now. It's like, you don't need to say that. If you just have a line that's delivered properly, that communicates to the viewer, they probably feel angry right now. You don't have to do more than that. You can trust that the audience will figure it out if it's done properly. I've used the example plenty of times, but I took a playwriting class in college, and one of the things that the teacher honed in on constantly was that novice writers, new writers, they tend to write a lot, but expert writers write enough. And I think that that's true in many, many ways. And if you look at the dialogue in something like a Forspoken, where they never shut up, just saying the same thing over and over and over again, you can start to feel that, oh, this is a novice writing approach. They're just writing a lot, hoping that you kind of eventually just get the idea through osmosis, instead of trusting that the player is going to think about the dialogue and then come to conclusions based on that. So I love the idea, going all the way back to what we were initially talking about. Even on stream, I have ADHD, I'll have you know. Even off stream, I have ADHD and I can't stay focused. But bringing this all the way back, where Neil Druckmann was saying that he likes the idea of trusting the audience and not over-explaining things, not relying so much on individual bits of dialogue, trusting that the player will figure things out themselves. I love that. I like to hear that. They're not going to over-explain it. Will they still have little white or yellow marks of color on every interactable object for you to parkour on? Who knows? I guess time will tell, but we'll see if this philosophy follows through with everything else. So yeah, he continued on. It doesn't mean we will never have dialogue or cutscenes. I think those are tools in your toolbox, and it's about how you use all these different aspects, some of it from other media, some of it as found notes in the environment and environmental storytelling, all of that combines. I think there is a way to push that stuff forward, at least for the kind of games we make at Naughty Dog. I'm really intrigued. Again, we're never resting on our laurels and trying something a little bit new, a little bit different, and not everyone's going to like, but that's okay. That not everyone's going to like is okay. And again, it's stuff we're working on now. I can tell you that the teams are very excited about the different projects we have at Naughty Dog. And this is something like I've heard rumbled through, naturally, not many people in the industry are that excited to talk to YouTubers about their work, because they're worried stuff is going to just spill and spill and spill. But you can usually tell when there's a smile or a nod. You might run into somebody at a media event or at Summer Game Fest or something who would know what's going on at Naughty Dog because they used to work there a year ago or 6 months ago, or they did contract work with them or whatever. And you're like, you don't have to tell me, but like, it's pretty awesome. And they just give you one of those. Just wait. They'll give you one of those, and it's not like on camera. It's not in the media. They're just telling another dude, just you wait till you see it. And we've all heard those rumblings, those of us that like talk to people within the industry that are working on this stuff. I don't know what they're working on, but my understanding is that whatever it is going to justify the wait. It's not going to feel as though, we waited 4 or 5 years for this, or 5 to 6 years realistically. Like, really? I think it's going to feel like it earned its development time, and I'm excited for it. And hearing that they're going to be pivoting and they're not just going to be doing The Last of Us Part 3 that is more of The Last of Us. They're going to try something a little wacky, a little different. Maybe it is in The Last of Us brand or whatever, but my guess is it probably isn't. And they're going to try something just different. There's been rumors of a new IP, specifically a sci-fi IP, for a while. Whether that actually sees the light of day, who knows? But I am excited to see what it is, because again, it just feels like this generation so far, the only stuff we've gotten from Naughty Dog has been like remakes and remasters so far, and it's been kind of frustrating that we haven't seen what they have to deliver. Because I mean, I get it. There's a lot of time and money that goes into these things. But I just want to see what these first-party studios have been cooking up exclusively for this generation, and can't come soon enough. But they say it focuses more on player freedom. That tells me that it leans a lot more into the Seattle levels in the opening hours or so, maybe the first like 6-7 hours of The Last of Us Part 2. And much less into the more linear stuff that comes later in the game. And I'm excited for that. Whether, like, honestly, what I would expect them to do, and this is just speculation, I don't have any inside info or anything, but my expectation is that they are going to take a lot of the assets, a lot of the stuff they designed for the multiplayer game, and they're going to bring those systems into a new game. So they're going to have, like, if they design this whole system around loot collection and upgrading weapons, that's probably going to be a big thing in whatever this single player game is, because why would they scrap it all? If they design this system for a storm that comes dynamically through the level to push you into different areas, that's probably something that they're going to bring in some form or fashion over here. I don't think that they're just going to scrap that cruise liner, whatever. I guess cruise liner is the right term. I don't think they're going to scrap that. I would bet you some good money that ends up being in the game somewhere in some way, shape, or form. You don't spend months designing levels around a gigantic cruise ship, like, and then scrap it. You don't do that. You're going to use it somewhere. So I'm excited to see what we get, and it can't come soon enough. I'm going to tell you what. So a little update with Naughty Dog and The Last of Us. I'm excited. Can't wait to see more. And I'll leave it there. Otherwise, I'll just keep rambling. And yeah, I mean, what else is new? So thanks for watching. See you in the next one. He took my thing.